I wanted to share something about conspiracy theories. And interestingly enough, right when I pressed the button, the garbage truck came outside. I think that's interesting. The ultimate conspiracy theory is that the human heart has not fully flowered with loving kindness, wisdom, intelligence, healing capacity. In the ancient Buddhism, Milarepa destroyed towns and was really pissed off and angry and violent. And St. Paul, in the Christian tradition, when he saw before he got struck by Zeus's lightning bolt, before he got struck by light of what they said is God, saw, and he was murdering lots of people and killing the early Christians. So, how is it that the early religions could transform and heal people and make them great citizens? And that the early Christianity particularly taught that love one another and that God is love. Rudolf Steiner goes into quite an interesting conversation again and again about how our job on earth is to gain the wisdom of the past, but awaken love as this next step in evolution. He also refers to the next step of evolution as that the heart is going to be capable of thinking, willing, and acting. So I want to talk about conspiracy theories, that we live in a world of incredible fear and projection and paranoia and anger. It was the early spiritual teachings of ancient India and Persia and Egypt and the ancient Greek and mystic. It's the number one way to go at this moment in history is that we're spirit, soul, and body. That each one of us has a spirit that's whole and divine and looks like stillness because we haven't awakened it. When we let go of our breath and breathe into our heart, empty our perceptions in our heart. It's my calling to share that I not only believe, but I see clearly that the heart is the single ear, the third ear, that with our heart we can hear and see the divine in each of us. If we're going to bring peace to this world and slow down the war of all against all and the apocalyptic fever that seems to be taking place, and very well could be due to the crass materialism and greed and selfishness. But, the number one original ancient pagan India thing was that sin, so-called, was to act out of separateness. And so I'm proposing to you the Hermetic marriage proposal to your higher self, right? I'm in service of your higher self. That each one of us has a spirit, soul, body, and in the spirit, each one of us is divine, and that we, in that real spiritual work, real spiritual practice, is to learn to divine the divine in each other, to learn to divine the radical stillness and holiness that's a deeper, deeper stillness within us, and to divine that spark that wishes to strive and flower and reveal itself within each one of us. Each one of us has a gift that nobody else can give, and that the world is missing something if each one of us doesn't awaken to our gift. Each one of us has a potential wholly, and we can only come to these things if we can get out of the lower and upper third, if we can transform the upper and lower third of ourself, our thinking and our willing activities, for a moment into the stillness of the heart listening. That we can, in our spirit, divine the divine in each other, We can see that acting out of separateness, that each body, spirit, soul, body, each body is separate. And that there's a unity and a oneness that permeates everything. But unless we can see that, unless we can feel it, we can't act on it. It's some kind of abstract ideal that we're all one and that we love each other. It's some kind of, after death state. I love that Chogyam Trungpa, an old acquaintance and friend of mine, he pointed out that all the negative emotions are premature after death states. And in Steiner way of saying it, I'd add that all negative emotions, anger, hate, jealousy, attachment, fear, negativity, are premature after death states, revealing the soul struggling to get free of attachment, ignorance, delusion, fear, jealousy, lack of focus and concentration on virtue. The experience of virtue is the experience of God. Plato said that the good, true, and beautiful isn't just an ideal, it's an actual experience of God. So I think that I have a lot of friends that are possessed and obsessed with the devil of conspiracy theories. And my thought on conspiracy theories is that if you're right, you're probably going to be dead soon because you've figured out exactly how all the money goes and all the selfishness and all the greed and the power tripping and the trying to control others rather than to awaken, power over rather than power through, and awakening the inner to flow outward and be free and loving. Instead, we're like dividing to conquer. We're projecting the negativities that we see are really, they may be out there, but they're also connected to ourselves. So negativity is its own reward. And conspiracies, a lot of people have so many conspiracy theories. I've noticed that people who are really locked into the conspiracy theories, they seem to have like miserable endings to their life. I mean, the crass materialist always blames other people for their lack of happiness. The spiritual personality, the spiritual soul, the spiritual person, right? Each one of us is an individual son. The individual person, every person, has something very divine and spiritual in them, and they struggle with what's separate. And each of us has a mind or soul, spirit, soul, body. The soul is the psyche or the mind that can identify with the higher virtues of the good, true, and beautiful. And like in the Sermon of the Mount by Hermes in the Divine Pymander, who's the son of the Virgin Isis, Krishna is born of a virgin too. These are all stories that reveal inner truths. So I'm not to get lost. I wanted to share that somebody needs to address the fact that when you're caught in conspiracies and negative things that you think you're seeing in the world, and in nowhere in those conspiracy theories is there a way to cook healthy food or garden your backyard or meditate and find peace in your stillness and your virtue and your calm abiding in your heart, mind, soul. In the conspiracy theories, there's nothing virtuous to do. Like, you should be very careful of people who are intellectual, who have no technique for what you could do immediately to empower yourself with virtue and stillness and solid ground. The word heart spells earth. The real heart of the matter is in empty stillness and a fullness, like the heart gets empty and full. A fullness of life and possibility and virtue potential. And stillness, and a rhythm between the everything and nothing. So the conspiracy theories that don't offer you a technique that you can work on yourself, like real materialistic real materialistic people who are just caught in just materialism, because there's a good materialism that honors the last 7 generations and the next 7 generations and sees the thinking in things that dispels the illusion and appearance of just the form and attachment to form. And so conspiracy theories never really educate the inner being. They always blame everybody else. And the materialist, the crass materialist that's wrecking our world, blames other people, and that their happiness is dependent on external things, not internal awakenings or insights or virtue possibilities or loving kindness. And the truly spiritual person always blames themselves, and the first step of changing the world is to change myself, to work on myself. And think about all the people you know that blame everybody else. Think about all the people you know that quietly look to themselves for the change. This is the problem. Another problem is that if you're the only person that sees their higher self, there might be a problem there. We need to see the higher self and spiritual potential, the spirit, the universal eternal, within each person. Whether that person is considered bad or good, we see their eternal, virtuous possibility for the good, the true, the beautiful, the two-way participatoriness of being co-creative with the whole of our life and the future destiny of the earth. And if you don't see that, it's really important to meditate for 3 to 5 minutes a day. Meditation is to let go of your breath and breathe into the stillness of your heart and wait. Be still like the trees and the stones. To wait for the deity to talk to you, the virtue to talk to you, the world to talk to you, for your inner higher self to speak from the voice of the silence. I want to say something about conspiracy theories because they're wrecking us. And I don't care if they're true or not. If we're not showing up for ourselves and the immediate world around us, if the whole world was going to end tonight, I'm still going to play guitar for a minute. I'm still going to pull a couple weeds in my own yard and my own self. I'm still going to cook rice and greens and vegetables. I'm still going to make soup. I'm still going to straighten out my room and do laundry. I'm still going to be patient and once again show by example to some friends and kids. I'm going to try to show by example. So I share a lot of words because I think a lot of us lack the vocabulary for the articulation of the architectural becomings of the temple of the soul. The temple of the soul is the rhythm of the soul between spirit and matter. The tempo is the TEMPO rhythm that we can create between our inner and outer self through our breath and our mind to awaken a divine will that's a spark within us. A lot of spirituality, it looks like it's going into poetry or mystical language because we forgot how to speak to each other from a very spiritual, mindful, heart, soul way. And many of us have lost the way so badly that we live upon myth, metaphor, reflections. We haven't found the ground of stillness to plant our garden. Meditation, consciousness without object, or without meditation without seed, like they might say, is this empty openness of stillness listening to stillness. Once one has a real base of the earth heart stillness, 3 minutes a day, 3 to 5 minutes a day, I don't advise you to meditate longer than that. It's very subtle how the mind flies or sinks or wanders. But I think just like friendship and conversations, like hugging, if you just do it for a minute here, 3 minutes to 5 minutes, you'll come back to it. You know, Gelek Rinpoche said that you should meditate until it feels really good, then stop, and you'll come back. It's like kissing, he said. I think that's an interesting way to approach it. We have to have a spirituality that interacts and intermingles with reality. So I want to speak about conspiracy theories. And I want to say that the ultimate conspiracy theory is that makes all the rest of them shadowy and dark, is that the real conspiracy is that the human heart, the wisdom of the body, hasn't come to be co-equal with the intellect of the world. The intellect of the world can make bombs and manipulate money and measure number and weight for everything, but they don't have the quality of the measureless, the immeasurable, the oneness. That's the number. Or the zero, being selfless, so we can still learn. Until the whole world's enlightened, we should still be learning. We should try to be spiritual friends, fellows in the college of the invisible college of life, lifelong learning. Until we're all enlightened, may we continue to be friends. And the weight, measure number and weight, the weight really is that it's really heavy what's going on. The weight is that your heart mind is lighter than a feather, and you're going to ascend in raising of consciousness. You're not going to ascend and disappear from here. You're going to more fully appear. The heart has not fully flowered. It hasn't fully rooted. So I want to speak about conspiracy theories and how they're really wrecking our world. And so is the news. The good news that they used to talk about in Hermetics and early Christianity, the good news was spiritual insights that awoke you to being more participant with everything. Jesus and Buddha and Krishna says, I only come at the darkest times. Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, all those kind of avatars and heroes and saints and holy ones, they came to transform alchemically the difficult situation into something that's holy and wholeness. They didn't come to point out who's bad. They came to convert, transform, purify, illuminate, and mingle with all life. So with that purpose, I wish that we could all awaken a more deeper stillness, a deeper holiness with every backyard, with every heart and mind. May peace and love truly come to this world, and may we be friends. Until the whole world's enlightened, may we be friends. Om Mane Padme Hum. May the virtuous one become mindful, flower in our heart, in our everyday activity. Hey, bless your heart. I hope I was able to help you to grow. The ultimate conspiracy theory is that the human heart has not fully spoken. This is Robert of MayflowerBookshop.com. Bless your heart.